Hello friends, welcome back to the bench. Thank you very much for joining me. Our patient is an AM86A. That makes it a 2008 Subaru Outback LL Bean edition. A very common issue of misfires due to IC608. So that's what we're gonna do. Now a little update on my previous case, yesterday's case, right? The Lenovo Legion 5 that has been treated very poorly by the other shop. Good news, customer reached out, they showed them my video, and the shop didn't admit any fault. Of course not. But they did reimburse him like $400, something like that. So he's getting a replacement board. We're gonna replace it for free because why not? He got screwed by another shop, so we're gonna give him a little break. It's only fair. It's crazy that they did not admit any fault, because it's kind of hard to argue with the evidence that I provided. But they figured no, it's not our fault, but we're still gonna reimburse you. But just just as well. Just as well, the customer's happy. The computer's gonna be fixed. That's all we care about, right? So I would say good ending. And really, I mentioned that before, that he really has, I don't know if all those 3 laptops were taken to the same shop, because it's from the same customer, maybe. I don't know, but he really had, was very unlucky. He got like 3 completely botched repairs. I mean, 2 of them were lightning, the power surge issues, right? So yeah, the probability of fixing after power surge, is significantly lower than when just a computer just turns off one day and won't start, or the BIOS update gone wrong or something like that. But still, they drilled through the board, completely removing the layers, and where that hole was, there was a chip, the PWM chip, that produces a signal for the coils to produce vCore. So relatively important piece of electronics on the board, ensuring that the board actually turns on. And even if I wanted to do anything with it, that whole part of the board is gone. So I don't even have a place to actually place the chip, and I would have to like route some wires to it or something like that. This would be very unreliable. So no, that's not something that we can do. But again, we're just gonna replace the board on that one, and it looks like I'm gonna receive the chip we've been waiting for the other board. So and also I need to find the VRMs to replace and all that stuff. I'll get to it. And I gotta find the replacement board for the other computer, because that's what I promised I would do. Typically I just, I don't want to take that responsibility. That's the board unrepairable, then just send me the replacement board, you look for it. But obviously the customer is not confident to find the right one, and this is a few $100s, so it would be not ideal if he sends the board and it turns out that it's not compatible. I can't use that one. It happens. All right, so that's it for the good news. The bad news, the situation in the country is not that great. I was so optimistic that finally the judge said that no, that's not constitutional for one man, regardless whether he's elected or unelected, to make decisions for 350 million people that impact every single one of those, impacts every single person in the country, and just completely unilaterally, without any discussions, without any voting, without any expertise or anything. So now the complaint from the secretary, the White House presser, that little girl, that little blonde girl, is that it is horrible. Yeah, how can this be in the United States that the president cannot just do whatever he wants without any checks and balances? That's crazy. President should be able to do whatever he wants, regardless whether it's in the best interest of his people or not. Even if it's in his own best interest, he should be able to do whatever he wants. That is at least the official approach of the White House, as we know at the moment. You know, you guys know that I'm not a citizen, at least not yet. Right? I'm a permanent resident. With this status, I can apply for citizenship, and to become a citizen, I have to pass the test. The test is rather simple in my view. I don't remember how many questions, but around 100 questions. There are channels on YouTube that recite those questions with answers, and like 3-hour videos, 2-hour videos. So you can just put on the headphones before sleep and just keep listening for a few weeks, and eventually you'll just pass the test with no problem. There's also the portion where there's like a written test. You have to write some text, you have to read some text. Basically, the purpose of it is to prove that you are capable of communicating in English, right? You understand English. But one of the questions, and actually sometimes I do have fun with my friends and the ones that are born Americans, right? That acquired citizenship through the right of birth, the constitutional right. So they never actually had to learn all that. And just to be fair, if someone gave me a Polish citizenship test, I would not pass because I was born with Polish citizenship, right? So that's typically how it works, right? You just you just don't know. Someone who is applying to be a citizen of your country knows more about your country than you do, and that's typically how it works. There's no shame in that. So sometimes I do troll my friends, and most nobody knows if you ask them what is the supreme law of the land, right? And I agree that this isn't something that you should know off the top of your head, because that means something's wrong if you do. And now I'm pretty sure everybody knows that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, because it's being violated at the moment. Because basically what it says is that every person in the country has those rights, like due process and other stuff, right? So it doesn't matter what your nationality is, where you come from originally. You have a constitutional right for, well, all the constitutional rights, right? So not only the due process, but you also, when you do get due process, you get a lawyer if you can afford one, right? And so forth. You cannot be forced to testify against yourself. The Fifth Amendment, was it fifth? Yeah, I think so. And so on, right? You have your rights. But the other question that is a lot more interesting to me is the question, what prevents any person or party in the United States from becoming too powerful? Anybody? The answer is checks and balances. What are checks and balances? Because the test doesn't tell you that. And when I was studying for the test, I didn't really give it much thought. I didn't even know what that was. Well, now I do, because we have a situation where the checks and balances, as they should, are not quite working. That was the idea in the Constitution that the framers of the Constitution came up with, because obviously it What if we elect a president, right? Back then, the enemy was England, right? Great Britain. That's we escaped, or the people back then escaped from the tyranny of the monarchy, right? Oh, that's what it was. There. Now the waving stopped. The lens was not screwed in. Right, and back then, the particular monarch that people were escaping from was particularly ruthless, right? And the idea is basically rules for thee, but not for me, right? So naturally, the framers wanted to ensure that we can't just elect someone and that someone will just say, you know what, we're going back to being a British colony. I'm the president, and I say we are now a British colony because the British monarch paid me a lot of money and financed my campaign and stuff like that, right? This is actually explicitly mentioned in the Constitution that when you recite the oath to the Constitution, you're protecting the country from enemies, foreign and domestic. Domestic enemy is, well, someone who say becomes a president or some high official and works against the interest of the people, of we the people, because that is the main issue over here. We the people, that is the idea of the United States, that is for the people by the people. That's what it's supposed to be. So the judge blocked the tariffs because it's crazy. First of all, the only reason, because typically when the tariffs are enacted, it's the Congress that decides that, not just one person. And the only reason one person with no oversight, with no checks and balances, decided that we're gonna have tariffs is because we have a national emergency. How do we have national emergency, you might ask? Very good question. How does national emergency come about? How does it appear? Well, typically it's self-explanatory, right? If there is a war between Mexico and Canada, and we're kind of in the middle, right? And the planes are flying over our heads, or rockets, or missiles, that kind of stuff. It makes sense to declare national emergency because there are rockets flying over our heads. If we are in the war or some foreign, like huge terrorist attacks like we did have in 2001, again, that planes are falling off the sky because the terrorists are exploding them, that is a national emergency. You can see that. You don't have to explain why is there a national emergency. This national emergency that has been declared by one person. So basically the president gave himself a power to do whatever he wants because it's an emergency. But I still don't know what the emergency is. I've heard the border, the invasion, right? I've heard fentanyl, but fentanyl was here before this administration took over. The border supposedly is all fixed now. It's no longer open, right? I don't think it was before, but who am I to make that determination? So I don't know. It doesn't seem like anything has changed so dramatically that now we have to declare national emergency. Correct me if I'm wrong. So basically, it looks like that's how it works. One person just declares emergency for the sake of emergency, and based on that, we do a whole bunch of stuff that normally no president would be able to do. And that's why we have checks and balances, because we don't want any single person, no matter how great that person is, we don't want any single person to become too powerful, to become a dictator. Or at least that was the framers' idea, that this will prevent such scenario, right? So executive, judicial, and legislative branches are kind of locked together. That was the idea, at least. And it seems to be failing. It seems to be failing very quickly. And one thing that I don't quite get is actually few of them. So one is that this progresses so quickly that it's hard to claim ignorance, or claim that, well, I didn't notice that it was happening too slowly, because normally that's how it happens. And just so you guys are aware, I've seen it firsthand how the abuse of power is conducted in the country I come from. So I've seen all that firsthand, and I see it here, but at least where I come from, this whole thing was happening very slowly, and the times were actually tough. And here, this is happening really quickly. It's very openly corrupt. It's very transparent, right? One rich guy goes into the White House and starts firing people that were investigating him in the interest of the people. You can't really claim, well, you can claim ignorance if you just don't care, but you can claim that you didn't see that coming. It's here. It's it's moving quickly. So at some point you have to just kind of decide whether you're declaring your loyalty to the Constitution and the country, or to some particular person that is ranting incoherently about how there are witch hunts against him and stuff like that. You know what? When this administration wanted to sign a deal with Ukraine to get their raw materials, right? What did Zelensky say? He said, "These aren't mine to give. They belong to my people. They belong to my country. I can't just unilaterally say that, yeah, all these materials, all these resources now belong to United States because I said so." You know, this is the president that I would like to have. President that thinks first and foremost about his people, his country, or her country, her people, right? I'm not saying that, yeah, I'll get the free plane from Qatar because, yeah, and once my term is done, it becomes my private plane. Not the best. It's not something that I would be proud of. I would like to be proud to be an American resident, right? And maybe an American citizen eventually, right? I would like that, but nowadays it's, you know, if you're just cooked up in the United States and, you know, and you just live day to day, working your farm, or you're a trucker, or you work constructions, or, you know, you just get up every day, go to work, do your job. That's as we all do. But there's the rest of the world that is watching. We're not alone. And those decisions that are being made now by this administration, they're going to have dire consequences years into the future. And it seems like everything nowadays is a big failure, but declared as victory. Right? Musk was supposed to save $2 trillion, then declared like 150 billion or whatever. Now he's leaving and he's declaring victory. He did what he was supposed to do. Everything's great, but in reality, it looks like the whole Doge experiment cost us, the working class, a lot of money. The tariffs are still costing us a lot of money. They have no idea how disruptive those tariffs are for my business. You have no idea how much more money I have to spend every month just to keep the shop running with those tariffs. You're gonna see the price differences. You're gonna see all that because there's a buffer, right? The ports have reduced the number of containers being received, or dramatically, people getting laid off and stuff. But we're gonna see that after, once it started happening, it's gonna be a month, 2 months, maybe 3 months before we actually see that in the stores, because every chain of this, every element of this chain has its own little buffer. So as you can see, I'm putting the chip that I got from China. Right now they're more expensive, but I'm still using the old price because I'm still using the old stock. Right? Once I run out of this, I have to order more and I have to charge more. Right? But since there's a relatively big delay, you might not correlate it with the tariffs. You're just gonna call me greedy or inflation or whatever. No, it's tariffs, nothing more than the tariffs. It has nothing to do with greed. It has nothing to do with inflation. It's just plainly the added cost that now I have to eat, and since I can't afford to eat it, I pass it on to my consumers, my clients. I don't see that as a problem. I don't see that as, that's how business works. I'm not in the business of reselling stuff, but if you're in the business of reselling stuff, then if you buy something for $10, you're not going to sell it for $5, because what kind of business is that? And you're not going to stay in that business for long. What exactly would be the purpose of doing that? Obviously, if you buy it for $10, you want to sell it for at least, I don't know, $12, $15, what have you. That's how business works. So no, Walmart's not gonna eat the tariffs, and I'm not gonna eat the tariffs. You're gonna eat the tariffs. My clients, Walmart's clients, consumers. At the end of the day, the consumer foots the bill. That has always been known. I don't know why there's so much confusion about it now. It's always been known. It's very common knowledge, isn't it? Alright, well, we can find plenty of people to blame. I don't blame the voters, but we're all gonna have to pay the price. It doesn't matter whose fault it is. Now, we should be looking for the solutions. One thing I don't understand is why the Democratic Party is staying so quiet. Well, maybe not all of them. The AOC and Bernie are trying to do something, which is great, but other than that, we used to impeach presidents for just infidelity. Now we don't care if the president is convicted felon. We don't even care if the president does things openly corrupt, hosting dinners for crypto holders, selling crypto, selling meme coins, shit coins. His wife's selling shit coins. It's crazy. That alone, I would call for impeachment for that alone. Like, come on, first of all, as a president, you can't have personal capacity. It's not like you put on the different hat and suddenly you're not a president of the United States, because you still have your secret service around you. You still are the president of the United States. If the war breaks up right now, or breaks out right now, then the president immediately goes to the Air Force One and starts circling in the air, right? A plane being refueled in the air. That plane can stay in the air for weeks, if not longer. So it doesn't matter if you're right now in the dinner in your personal capacity. No, there's something happened in the country. You're the president. There's no personal capacity for you anymore. So you can't just say that, no, that I didn't do that as president. It's like telepathically declassifying documents or stuff like that. No, there's a process for everything. And that alone, I think, qualifies for at least engaging in articles of impeachment. The articles of impeachment against Biden were brought and discussed, and I still don't know what they wanted to impeach him on, because they didn't seem to agree on. They all agreed that he needs to be impeached, but they couldn't agree on what. So it was southern border, inflation, all those things, and they never did. But I say, sure, bring the articles of impeachment. Let's vote on it, and let's see. Sure, presidents should be held accountable. But now with this president, suddenly, nah, it's good. It's all good. No impeaching. It's crazy double standards, and I don't even know what for. It's not like our life is now suddenly a lot better. Actually, to be honest and transparent with you guys, if this goes the way it's going for much longer, I'm gonna have to do some. I don't know yet even what. I don't really see any options, but I'm gonna have to do something radical, because another 6 months of this and I'm broke. I'm on the streets. I won't be able to afford to live, let alone keep the shop. And with the job market being what it is, it's not like I can easily find gigs. Like I used to find consulting gigs a lot. There were a lot of companies and a lot of projects, and they needed an expertise. And I wouldn't even charge that much. Like sometimes $30 an hour, sometimes $60 an hour. And it's not like you get, it's not like you get 40 hours a week for that, If you get like 5 a week, maybe 10 a week, that's it. So it's not a lot of money, but it adds up. So it's a good, maybe $1,000 a month. It's decent. I don't complain. I didn't complain then. I wouldn't complain if those times have returned. But no, I don't really have that option anymore. I'm getting old. I can't really do what I used to do, like physical labor and stuff like that. Because I'm sure there's plenty of work if you're willing to work hard. Doing like some constructions or some stuff like that. I'm sure there's plenty of work in that. Especially since we're kicking out the immigrants, the illegal immigrants. So there's very little competition now, and the work has to be done. Business is closing because of that, because they can no longer find affordable workers. But I can't do that anymore because I'm just too old. Like I don't remember when exactly it happened, but my arm started hurting, like to the point where I had to wear a sling and just basically not move this arm for at all. And any movement in like this direction would cause so much pain. It felt like it was broken. I don't think it was broken, but it felt like it was broken. Very painful, and it took roughly 6 months to heal. Back in the day, even from bruised bones and pulled muscles and stuff, I would recover in a week, 2 weeks tops, right? Now, my body takes time to heal. Same with, I used to drink a lot, being, dealing with hangover the next day. But next day with hangover, I could do everything. Sure, I would sweat a little more, and I was more thirsty, headache, but I could do my job and no problem. Now if I drink just one beer too many, enough to have a hangover the next day, I can't even go to work. And I have an office job, right? With air-conditioned office. But I can't even do that when I'm hungover. It's, the age is taking the toll, especially since I never used to just really take care of my body. I would always favor the work being done rather than, injuries or PPE and all that stuff. Nah, who would wear gloves, who would wear hard hat. But I can't do that anymore. So, and that's, who do I blame? Well, if there's one person that makes unilateral decisions without any checks and balances, without any oversight, then in that case, the answer to the question is very simple. Because at least during Biden administration, a lot of things were being blamed on Biden, but he never really did anything just by himself. He would bring stuff in front of the Congress, he would talk to the other side of the aisle, but nothing, that he did through. I'm pretty sure he did do some executive orders and stuff, but there was no national emergency, so he couldn't really do stuff that Trump now is able to do. I don't blame Trump, because he wants credit for low gas prices, but I don't give him credit, or I don't blame him for that, because presidents in general have very little impact on the gas prices. It's like saying that it's Trump's fault that I charge $50 for this instead of $20, right? And what exactly is the president supposed to do? He can tell me that, hey, Raf, you need to charge $20 for this, and I can just say, okay, thank you, go away, and still charge 50, right? So it's not like the president has absolute power to just tell the economy to be good. Unfortunately, I wish there was a magic wand for the president to use and just declare that everything is great now. Sure, I would, but that's not how it works. So I don't blame him for that, but I blame for high prices at the store. There's only one person that decided that tariffs are the way to go. They seem to be inflationary, and they seem to increase the prices. So there's only one person to blame. Now, what kills me in this whole administration is nothing new, but when the official Twitter account of the president of the United States published a picture of Trump as a pope, and someone asked him a question like, don't you think that it could be offensive to the Catholics? And he said, no, it's only the fake news that have a problem with that. No, Catholics love me and they don't have a problem with that. How would you even know without actually polling all Catholics? But coming from a Catholic country and a Catholic family, or at least partially, I can tell you that, yes, my grandma would be extremely offended if she saw that. So would a big chunk of my family and all my grandma's friends. They would be deeply offended. And now imagine that you are this person that is deeply offended, and you're watching the president saying that, no, they're not offended. And you hear from the president that, no, you're not offended. But you are. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy, but that kills me, that there's like the denial. No, everything's good. Like the question, the consumer incentive, the consumer optimism is low. No, it's not. No, it's high. At the end of discussion. Right? No, it's high. It's called gaslighting. That's what we get from this administration nowadays. Well, as I said, I've seen it before, and I knew I would see it again. I just didn't expect the United States to be the place where I see it, which is sad. Alrighty, it is fixed. We got it in 40 minutes. That's not too bad. Looking good. Oh, it's dripping. I'll let it dry and pack it up, ship it, and we're moving on to the next one. We got an AM5 socket to replace. So let's get ready for that. Thank you guys very much for watching. I do appreciate you. And I shall see you in the next one.